Alright, so today I kind of wanted to just talk about something that I've kind of had my opinion on for a while when it comes to Dead by Daylight, and that is why I don't really think 4Ks really matter, and I kind of just want to go over and give my opinion on why, for some reason, like 90% of the community, it feels like, really thinks that 4Ks genuinely matter in this game. So, if we look at Dead by Daylight from the base game, there's one killer, four survivors. Your goal is to kill all of them. And the way it works is that by each kill you get, you will be getting you'll get better emblems, better rankings, higher MMR, stuff like that. Now, obviously, the goal is to try and get as many kills as possible, meaning you're not really trying to end up with like a 1K or no kills, because obviously, it sucks. Like, you went the entire game not even being able to kill a single person. But usually, most of the time, you can even get like one or two kills in an average game. And to me, that's, fine, because that's essentially like a draw between me and the survivor team. Like, if I'm able to get at least 2 kills and 2 people escape, that is literally just a draw to me, because it just means that, hey, half of the team escaped, half of the team is dead. So I don't win, but I don't lose at the same time. Now, this is the part where I've noticed a lot of people have some discussions towards, and it's mostly involving the 3Ks and the 4Ks. So, the way I see it, a 3K is automatically just considered as a win from the killer's POV. Because from the killer's POV, he killed 75% of the team, and you most likely you're gonna be getting better emblems and more blood points, and you're gonna be getting better stuff because you got a 3K, because that is just kind of a win. You killed more than half of the team, and even if that one person does escape, the team technically didn't win because only that single person got out. Now, a 4K is obviously one of the best things that you can have, because it just means, yeah, you were so good, you killed all 4 people before anyone managed to escape. And that's really good. And most of the time you even get extra, like instead of getting like a 1 pip for a 3K, you might get like a double pip for a 4K, or you might get just like higher emblems, or you might get better blood point bonuses for getting a 4K, and stuff like that. Like, you get like extra blood points for making sure nobody escapes, and making sure gens don't get done by the time you kill them. Like, it all makes sense. It really does all make sense. But the thing that I don't understand is why there's so many people in this community, both like content creators and not content creators, that for some reason really act like a 4K is the only thing that they can go for. Like, they will not accept a 1K or a 2K, but for some reason they just won't even accept a 3K. Like, by the time you get a 3K, the hatch has spawned, the last survivor's alive, and if you're running a good build, you probably already know where they are. So a lot of the times what happens is that if there's somebody that's really trying to go for that 4K, you have that scenario of somebody getting slugged on the ground, and you might be the last person alive, and you either have to just try and wait it out, or you have to try and pick them up. And depending on the person, these can go on for so incredibly long. Like, I've had matches in my time of playing Dead by Daylight where I will have endgames where it's me and one other person versus a killer, and that match will just drag on for over 5 minutes. And the thing is that a lot of people will hear that and they'll think, oh, that's not that bad. In Dead by Daylight, time is the craziest concept, if that makes sense. Like, in Dead by Daylight, time is something that is just, it's so weird, because it's like, you think things are happening longer than they're actually happening. So it's like 5 minutes of Dead by Daylight feels like 20 hours sometimes. So when you have an end game where you have, a really sweaty killer trying to go for a 4K, and then you have one person on the ground, it's, yeah, you have to make that decision of, are you going to just wait it out, or are you going to actually just try and pick it up and keep the game going? Because a lot of the time what happens as well is that you might be in a scenario where there's one gen remaining, and it's you and one other person, and you're looping the killer really well, they're looping the killer really well, but the moment one of you guys go down, the game's over, because they're not even going to bother trying to pick up, because they've been, trying to catch you guys all game, so they're really trying to go for that 4K. And that's at least the mentality I see behind it, but I just don't see the point in trying to do all of that, in trying to drag the match longer than it is, when technically you've already won. You've technically already won the game by getting that third person. So I just, and like, yeah, you might not like get as many pips, or like, you might not get as many blood point bonuses, or, emblems or whatever, but you still won the game. And I've even had experiences of dealing with people that are trying to go for win streaks. And I'm like, a lot of the times when people do win streaks, from what I've noticed, in their rules, a 3K is considered a win. So why are you dragging it out for a 4K? It doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, you look at, just like, and even when Dead by Daylight was trying to add like the anti-slugging stuff into the game, it's like that, it was literally to prevent those situations of people just getting slugged on the ground, and trying to prevent people from just being slugged on the ground, and when there's only 2 people left. Like, it's just so ridiculous to me sometimes that people will literally go out of their way when they already know that they've won the game. Like, they already know that they got 3 people killed, they already won the game, but instead they choose to drag it out just for that extra bit of blood points or the extra emblems. Like, unless you're like somebody that really tries to go for like the max iridescent emblems and tries to get double pips every game, I just don't see why the average player, or even some like really like higher end players, again, like I said, it's like a 3K is considered a win. Sure, it's not the best win you could get. You're not getting as much for it. You're not going to be going up in MMR as much, but it's still a win. So I've thought about it before, and I'm just like, I don't know if it's like ego, or if it's like, these people just, they have to prove that they're like the best killers in the game. They can get a 4K in any match that they play. Like, I don't know what it is, because like a lot of the time it is like that. A lot of the time you just play against people that think that they are the best killer ever, and think that they can just slug for, and they think that they can just go for the 4K, when a lot of the times what happens is that they tunnel one person out, go for another person, and then they slug the third person while looking for the fourth. Like, that's most of the time what happens with those kinds of players. So it's like, I just don't really understand why people just can't accept that a 3K is considered a win and just hook the person. Because even if the person's not on death hook, you can still hook them, and then let's say you have like barbecue and chili, for example, you might even be able to see the person from across the map, so you might be able to go for them and get the 4K regardless. Or there's just so many perks that people have been running nowadays that makes chasing and makes finding survivors easier. So it's like, what is the point of slugging at that point if you already are going to be running perks that are designed around this? And not only that, but like, people have also just been running insane slowdown perks, meaning that even if you do get to that situation where there's a third person down, the last person still alive, they're not going to be doing generators, because you're running 4 slowdown perks. You're running like Ruin, Pain Res, Deadman's, and fucking Grim Embrace, and people are just going to be running all these slowdown perks if they think that they're in like the top MMR. So it's like, what's the point of trying to slug for the 3K assuming that someone's going to do a gen? Nobody's going to be doing a 3 gen in the end game. They're literally just going to be waiting it out and then picking each other up until eventually either one of them dies, or you just fucking slug long enough that you kill them both. It doesn't really make sense to me that people just can't accept it, a 3K as a win. I don't, because like, even when I play killer, I'm not like this, like, I don't consider myself an insanely like sweaty killer player. Like, yeah, I know how to play killer. I'm good at killer. I can play a good amount of killers, but I don't intentionally try to go for the win. Like, I can play Springtrap, and I just play how I normally play, where I just try to go for stupid shots and just try and have fun. And a lot of the time what happens is it ends up working, and I might even get like a 3K or a 4K, and I'll be happy with that. But for me personally, I'm not even mad if I have like a 2 or 3K, because again, I just don't think it really matters in that situation. Like, if you're playing Survivor, obviously, because I do main Survivor, but if you play Survivor, escaping means more than anything, since that's your only real objective, is trying to escape. It's not even really about your teammates in Survivor, it's mostly about just you escaping, because the faster you can escape when you escape, if you're able to escape without like getting in too much action and making sure you don't get hooked or anything, yeah, you get more emblems, you get more bullet points, you get more pips and stuff like that. So Survivor, escaping means everything. Like, escaping is like the main thing you're trying to do. It doesn't matter about your teammates, doesn't matter about, the kill. Now, obviously, when I play Survivor, I try to help my teammates because I've gotten to the point that escaping just doesn't really matter to me. I'm more just looking to fuck around and have fun with the game. But I understand that for the average Survivor player, escaping means everything to them, and I totally understand that. And I totally understand that trying to kill all the survivors as killer makes sense. But the thing is with Killer is that Killer has two different ways of winning, which is either a 3K or a 4K. So you get a 3K and you can tell yourself, oh, I've already won. And then just move on. Like, I don't understand why we need to drag it on just so you can get a 4K, just so you can get extra blood points. It just doesn't really make sense to me, because most of the time what happens is that these people might even bring like extra blood point offerings in general, meaning you're going to be getting that extra blood points anyways just from the offerings that people are bringing. So it doesn't really make sense to me that people will just drag a match on and on just because they think that they have to get this 4K. Like, I just don't really get it. Like, and like I said, sometimes it's, most of the time it's the like super like comp players, or like the win streak people, or just the people that think that they're at like the very top of MMR and they have to show that they're like the best killer around. I get it, but at the same time, if you've already won the game, like what is it to make yourself feel better about like getting that 4K? Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me personally, because like I said, Survivor, the only thing you can really try to do is escape, and that's like your main winning goal. Your main winning goal as Killer is to kill everybody, yeah, but again, a 3K is still considered a win by the game, so technically by the time you get a 3K, you already won. So killing the fourth person is just an extra little bonus that you get, especially since, the finisher Mori and stuff is in the game. It really does feel like that the fourth person that you kill is like that extra little bonus. Like, hey, you managed to kill everybody. Why don't you kill this guy by your hand? Like, that just makes more sense to me. But like, for an average killer game, I'm totally fine with getting 3Ks, because I know I might get like one pip, or I might get like extra emblems or extra blood points and stuff. That's fine to me. I just don't understand why a lot of the people in this community, for some reason, just really think that 4Ks matter in this game. Like, to me, they don't. Like, to me, 3Ks matter more than 4Ks, because that literally means you won the game. And, people are gonna say, like, oh, but Survivor, there is more things you have to worry about, like your emblems with, like, your teammates and generators and stuff like that. I get it, because, yeah, you do have to if you want to get those big emblems, you do have to, like, do generators, help your teammates, and, do stuff like that. But that is not hard to do as Survivor, because that is literally the entire thing you do as Survivor. As a Survivor player, you do gens, you help your teammates, you evade the killer. That is literally the three things you do, on top of just trying to escape. So you can just get those things by just playing the game. Like, I will have Survivor matches where I will get a max iridescent emblem game just from playing the game. Like, I didn't even think I was doing anything, but the game gave it to me because apparently I was a team player that game. But with Killer, because Killer doesn't have as many objectives to do other than just kill people, they don't really have like a real reason to go for those insane wins, because they're not doing as much as survivors are doing. Like, yeah, I get it, killers have to defend generators and stuff like that, but again, if you're a killer running 4 slowdown perks and you're already knowing that you're gonna win this game, I just don't think there's really a reason for you to drag the game out by slugging the third person on the ground. And that's just how I see it. I just think that a lot of more killer players need to at least start hooking to the third person, because there's just so many matches where it just becomes boring because one person's on the ground trying to recover and then you're hiding in the corner of the map. You're waiting to go pick them up just for them to go down again. Like, it just gets so boring, and I know that these killer players know that. I know that they understand that that's a boring thing to do. And then it just makes it more confusing on why they do it, because they've already won the game. So just take your kill and win the game. Like, because even if like you kill that third person and the hatch spawns, there's still a chance that you can close the hatch. And, let's say you have like no way out or something, like an endgame build, you might still end up getting that 4K. So I just don't really see why people need to drag it out to get that 4K when there's more than enough time for them to get that 4K by just hooking that third person. it doesn't really make sense to me. And like, yeah, like I said, with how people have been playing recently and the type of perks people have been bringing, it just doesn't really make sense to me why people see 4Ks as the definitive way to win a match when the 3K literally, the game tells you that a 3K is essentially a win. So, and your MMR like does go, like, yeah, like I said, it doesn't go up as much, or you know, you might not get as many emblems and stuff, but it's still a win. Like, a 3K is still a win. So I think people need to just, like, I think people just need to accept it. Like, even, like I said, even if, like, you just hook the third person and then, like, you know, like, camp them out and look for the fourth one. Hey, at least, like, that person can move on to the next game, and the game's not being dragged out because you're just leaving one person on the ground. So, I don't know. I want to know what anyone else's opinions are on this, because I genuinely just, it just makes no sense to me that a lot of killer players just can't accept that a 3K is a win. Like, there's so many things that you get just from getting a 3K, so it's like the fourth one is essentially like a bonus. That's how I see it. But yeah, no, and people for some reason just think that a 4K is like the only way you could win a killer match in Dead by Daylight. So, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about that. So if you want to give me your opinion in the comments, I'd love to read it, honestly, because I'm kind of interested in it. But yeah, I just want to give this opinion so you can check out my other DBD discussion stuff. So, alright, see you guys in the next one.